And sometimes it really, really helps if you unmute yourself as you go live. Hello, everybody. How are you all doing tonight? Thank you for joining me as I begin on my fun and games. So, the first fun and game we are going to attempt to do is let's actually run a real poll with no cost, and we'll put a 0. Duration's gonna be, let's do an odd number. Odd number would be 7. No, let's do 9. I like 9 better. Let's do 9. And the items we're gonna do are, what is the topic? And ooh, I guess I need to get uncomfortable sex toy out of there. What is the topic? Uncomfortable sex toy. That is no longer the topic. We need to update that. Option 1. Today's first topic option we will just call let's call HuffPost. And HuffPost is going to be me going after a video that let me move my mic. Going after a video that I decided to comment something on. Hey, welcome TC, Hawk Silk, welcome. And I'm one of those numbskulls that just jumps into a video, I watch it, hey Adam, and I'll go through the video and listen to everything they have to say, or have to say, and I'll listen to the narrative on how they say it, and I'll try to comment only if I feel it's something that I warrant enough intelligence or a little bit of insight in, and I'm willing to jump into the conversation. So if I'm going to make a comment like that, after the comment's made, that item sticks in my head for a while. So HuffPost made a video. It is about racism in Charlotte, South Carolina, and it went into something about Virginia, which is where my post came in. Hey, Red Feather. And I know a little bit about it, so we'll do HuffPost racism. Option 2. Option 2 is one of the fun options, and this fun option is going to be bot programming. And I have my bots open, and we can look at what to do to improve upon them. I will take random options to add to this list because I don't have a whole lot more options, because I still can't discuss what tomorrow night's topic is, which I'm going to do my crash coursing tomorrow, but I've done a little bit of pre-learning. Or what else can I add? Add a mullet mat. Oh, do we want to see a mullet mat? Let us see a mullet mat. I will attempt to put mullet mat on the stream. Oh yeah, we could do that. We could discuss topics, and that will include things like Matt and Alex Jones and HuffPost. So I guess if I only have 3 options, I'm going to have to take the rest of the optional bad sex toys off the list. Alright, now I have room for 3 more options to throw on here. Hey Bubonic, welcome. Ryan, hey. Gaius Gracchus, welcome. Let's put on here, look at 1860 census, just because I have it for some reason. And it's cool how when you look in the past how things were done and how we do it now, there's still some similarities, but this map actually calls out certain differences. Come on, seriously? We could do that. I'll look. The problem is, Bubonic, that no census would have been taken before 1700. We'd have to go to the British census, and I don't know how good their record keeping was. What is next? Look at the 1860 census. we could do something. We'll just put that down. We'll see what happens. Britain was a thing when? Guys, you got me. You completely got me. I want to say somewhere around the... Well, we're talking Britain, the country. Or, let's say... 12? Was it 1200s? The late 1200s? Wait, Britain wasn't a thing then. Wasn't a thing when? In 1488? How was it not a thing? I thought it's been around for a while. I know nothing about Britain. I am not a world expert. I learn history about another country. I don't think that's all gonna fit in there. And there's 9 minutes on the poll. Poll is started. Let's see how well this works. I've only done this once before. 1800s? Really? Somehow I don't... Well, okay. What was it before it was Britain? That it would have been the 1800s. Or are you having a separate conversation? Okay, so to play in the poll, you hit exclamation vote space 1 through 6 for your option number. Okay, so I was off by 140-ish years. Didn't I say 1200s? I knew it was a while back. I wanted to say it was 9, but then 12 just came to me, and I thought that was a smarter decision. I could have been wrong. I could have been wrong. Okay, so the poll is running. I forget if I have this set up to come on the screen or not. Auction. Browser without a name. Browser without a name. 2, 3, and 4. Let's start with browser with nothing. Add existing browser. And what does this do? Give it a second to load. Nothing. Alright, we'll get rid of that. Let's add... Let's go to number 4. I feel like going to the other end of the list. I think that might be the right thing to do while you guys are voting. I'm going to play with numbered. You know, it would probably be a smarter decision on my part to do it the easier way and probably just grab this website again and try to just toss it up here and see if it works. Britain is actually an island off of England. England. That's what's a thing. Wait. See, that part gets confusing. Isn't Britain England? Because the UK is the United Kingdom, which is England, Ireland, Britain. Wait, now I'm really confused. The vote is what today's next topic is going to be after we're done randomly just hello everybody, welcome for being here kind of thing. And Fox showed up. Hey, Dewey's here, the angry Amish hitman. Nope, Ireland is separated, racist. What? What? Ireland is separate? What? Okay, apparently I need to learn world history, and I was talking with my sister-in-law about world history. Oh yeah, that's the same sick shit right there. Germany has some issues they aren't talking about. Alsium was heavy German. No, Britain is not England. It's part of the UK, but itself an island. Oh! That makes more sense now. Alright. England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland make up Britain. Northern Ireland. Wait. Ireland's two separate countries? Northern Ireland and Ireland? Now I'm really confused. I'll figure it out. Numbskull, England, Wales. England, Scotland, and Wales equal Britain. England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland equal UK. Okay. Republic of Ireland. Ireland. Did I ever fix this to work? I don't think I did. I got here reading the chat, figuring out what was going on, and I have no idea what's going on. Excuse me. Oh, that's why it's not working. Let's just paste this in there. Oh, there's a humming noise outside. That's terrible. What's the topic? Oh, here we go. It is working, folks. It is working. It is covering my face. I'm gonna have to fix that a little better. I was not prepared for this. It was a last minute idea. I started setting up Lear history. It's supposed to be learn. And we will move odd. You know what? Just doing what I'm doing right now, I suddenly feel like Bubonic. I think it's Bubonic's fault for me watching his content for the last couple days, just all the way through listening. Skullbot scares you, Hawksilk. Hawksilk, if bot programming comes up, what I do with the bots is I will add programming at this point mostly from chat request for either something you want to say or something funny. So if you look up in the upper right hand corner, that is going to give you different things to say. The red items are just going to be like normal, funny, and whatnot. I think the other one is blue. And the blue ones tell you how to get to my links. I don't just shove my links. I shove the bots at you. The bots are kind of there to interact and either piss you off just a little bit to the point where you get mad at them and go, fuck you, Nightbot. Or they're there just to give you a hard time for the things you say and do. So, some of them can get repetitive and annoying, and I may go through and change those as time goes on. Or if a request comes, hey, Patrice, welcome. On my second 40, no longer responsible for what I say. Contact Samuel Smith Brewing, Telecaster, England, Tadcaster. I'm assuming that is a company that makes 40-ounce bottles of cheap but get you drunk alcohol. And I support this decision as long as you're not driving or walking anywhere. What else? I wouldn't fuck Nightbot. She's a whore. I'm not sure Nightbot's a she anymore with all the programming. I'm really not. Nightbot, I think Nightbot's the one that does the nails. And oh, this vote's looking like HuffPost rare. I can't even tell how many people have voted yet. I don't know if it tells me. We got 2 minutes and 25 seconds running on the poll. This is a free poll. Welcome, TC, to the chat. This free poll is to decide what today's topic is going to be. I suppose, not knowing quite how many votes are in, I'm going to assume whoever's voted has voted for HuffPost about my comment, and I'll comment on the HuffPost video, break it up, chat about it, and then we're going to go through the comments, or we could just go through the comments. That's always fun. I did not grab a drink, and that can has a sip left in it. I'm a dumbass. That happens. You want to vote, it's exclamation and then vote. And let me scroll back to make sure I'm right. Yes, I think it's exclamation vote space the number 1 through 6. 1 is a HuffPost racist rant. Hey, welcome, Nugs. 2 is bot programming. We are going to add to or change the configuration as per the chat request. 3 is discuss topics like Mundane Matt and Alex Jones, and I suppose I could possibly take requests. The next one is look at 1860, and I have a United States Census map blown up to a huge PNG that I can zoom very close on. Vote discuss topics. Alright, no, Bubonic, do I vote 3? Or I vote. Do exclamation VOTE space 3 to select Mullet Matt. And look at what you've started. And I sent that to a whole bunch of people. I tried to tag it in other streams to see if it would pick up. You were wrong. It didn't pick up. I gave them. I will show it in here, though. As soon as I remember. Here we go. There. And we will find Mullet Matt. Mundane Mullet. I vote 3. I see I vote 3. I vote 5. See, look at this. This is nice. Everybody get in here. Get in what you guys want to talk about. I threw up some ideas about what I have. And then, oh, poll closed. Most votes for HuffPost racism. 2 votes for HuffPost racism. How did that pick 2 votes when I see 2 votes for something else? I see 3 votes for something else. Oh, bubonic voting twice doesn't count. Not for that one. Yeah, I tried to set up a system. It's a majority vote, but I still don't see how that worked. It should have probably tied between 1 and 3. I tell you what we will do. I will call it a tie between 1 and 3. I will run through topics real quick because they're funny. And then we will move on real quick and criticize and speed through a HuffPost article, video. And then I will show you all of these funny comments. And you guys can tell me if I'm right or wrong. Please be critical and honest. So we are looking for mundane mullet. Alright, so this is my favorite one. Honestly. Let me... Oh, that's full screen. You guys can all see that. Dun, 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 dun. Everybody in here should hopefully know what happened with Mundane Matt. And apparently Mundane Matt is in a bad place. So with Bubonic, his chatting in the screen, this is my free thought image. However, because he said something, it just triggered a I bet you I could do that feeling. And so I bet you I can do that, and thus we have I bet you I can do that with Mullet Matt. And Mullet Matt thinks it's a great idea, everybody. Does everybody else think Mullet Matt is a great idea? So these are what I have created today. I kind of stopped there. I have one without the background, but mostly it's to hit with truth. I'm in a bad place. That was what I caught from everything he said. I honestly haven't been through everything. I watched Cog. I watched a couple other people with clips that they cut from the stream last night. Apparently, I heard something that said it wasn't there, but I haven't gone to look because it's a long stream. I took the cuts. And I've tried to catch a bunch of stuff talking about it today. How do I feel? I watch less than a quarter of any video that I happen to click. I only click his videos if he has a title or a topic that nobody else has. And I've noticed, maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's the fact I haven't clicked on much, but I've gotten very little in my feed for him on anything. So did I already remove him? Did he block me for doing things? That would be interesting. Yep, you showed Cogs and Ralph's in your show. I know. That's why I kind of just turned it on, set it back, and there was there was periods I wasn't even chatting because I just put you up and was doing something else. Mostly these. I enjoyed them. I really did. As soon as I saw the one picture that, if you search Mundane Matt, so this is what I do when I make memes. This is the easy way for me. I will get an idea of what I want, and then I will just Google image, comma, and I'll Google whatever it is I'm looking for. And if I don't see something that strikes my eye at first, I'll comma, add another search topic or an extra word or two to try and get it to find something closer. And when I was looking for Mullet Matt with the thumbs up, the one with the hands up looked good, but not for a mullet. It didn't seem to fit. I mean, it was easy to clip the mullet in, don't get me wrong. Easier than the other one was because I had to cut the thumb and bring the thumb forward on layers. But when I saw the hands up, I was thinking somebody's got to point a gun at him. And when I pointed the gun at him, I was like, now how do I get away with not actually shooting him? I've got to portray bullets to presume that they're not dangerous. Oh, well, we'll just make the bullets truth. I'll just meme the hell out of this meme which I don't normally use words to meme with, except, you know, a comment or something at the bottom. But in this case, truth bullets, damn, they really hurt this guy. He took like 40 or 50 rounds and didn't go down. And then when he fell crying like, oh, I got so many holes in me. What have I done? That's the best reference I can think of what happened to Mundane Dat Murray. I cannot talk. Mundane Matt during that stream. It just sounded to me like, you know, there were 7 or 8 people standing there ready to pull their guns because they just pulled him out of the car, and he lied to him about being drunk and possibly running over the cat and the stop sign and the mailbox and the fence and the road sign and the post box and not pulling over. They got him out of the car peacefully. He stood there. They tried to do a sobriety test, and then they found out what he had done before they pulled him over. And he still didn't want to cooperate. So they had to shoot him up. They just lit his ass and unloaded every clip they had. It's surprising he's still around. I've never heard someone just go shut down and immediately become what everybody was saying he was. So, I'm not reading the chat right now. Let me finish with there's something I noticed in the moments where Matt kind of broke down. And as everybody looks at this, everybody's going to see something different. And on my channel, I always try to question different aspects. One is, if I were in his situation, how would I feel and how would I react? Another is, what would the ideal way to this situation be? How could Matt have reacted that would have helped him? What could he have done differently? How could he have approached the situation? Or any number of other things. But these are what came to my mind is, how would it affect me and how could he have approached it differently to get a different outcome? I saw one dramatic point, which honestly is exactly where I probably lost that last bit of thread of respect for Matt. And it's right here. He was confronted with everything. He finally did decide to own up with it. He shared his screen. It was long enough for everybody to get a screen cap. Come on, your screen goes up for a second and you're done. We all know this. We've made mistakes. We hope they don't happen often. Now, he was caught. He should have just left it up, showed it, and not taken such a low aggression stance. If he was doing it for a reason that he believed in or he thought was alright, and he was, listen, dude, and honestly, this is what I see he could have done differently. At the point where Medicare was sitting there going, I want you to say, da 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 da. I'm sorry, I don't have the phrase. I know a couple people have it on replay just because it's beautiful, but I don't have it. At that point right there, I probably would have been the, you know what, dude? Fuck you, I don't answer to you. I'm not apologizing for nothing. You're not going to corner me and be some stupid asshole. I did what I did. Fuck you. You don't like it? Leave. To hell with you. And that is the only thing Matt probably could have done to earn any respect from anybody in that room. That is what I probably would have done, is as soon as I heard that, you say this. Fuck you. I don't care what the hell I did. Fuck you. I'm not saying shit that comes out of your mouth that you want me to say, regardless of what I did. That, especially on the internet. Come on. What are they gonna do? Oh, they swat me. They sent cops to my house. They sent the FBI to me. I said terrible things. I got flagged for my videos. People are talking about me. Man up. Be a dick. If you're a dick, be a dick. People understand dicks. Some people can relate to dicks. I'm not talking about penises. I'm talking about being an asshole. That is the only thing if anything, Mundane Matt could have done to possibly salvage anything out of that stream. And if there's anybody that agrees or disagrees with me, I don't think I can reset the poll fast enough. If you agree or disagree with me, just say why. If he could have done anything better in that chat, I think the best thing he could have done was just turned around and went, wait, what did you just say to me? Fuck you. And I'm sorry, no disrespect to Medicare whatsoever. I think the only way Matt could have handled that better was just to admit he was a dick and just be a dick. Welcome, Denny. How are you doing? Matt stole my boulders yesterday. We did it. We suffered a few losses. The rest of the group got away with a bag of bones. Good job. Is that the first bank or the second one? I think that's the second one. I'm not sure. Nugs checking the other bot that I haven't put much programming in yet. We'll get there. He could have not been bitch made and not reported stuff. Okay, Patrice, fair. However, I don't think I've ever reported a video. I don't know what to report and why. If I did, it was accidental, because sometimes I put my phone in my pocket and my buttons things, and I used to get in trouble for silencing people on other people's streams, and then I'd hear them yell out, "Numbed Skull, what did you do?" It's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't know what I did. I put the phone in my pocket, I just heard you yell my name, and I'm sorry. Whoops. And then somebody did that today, and I'm sorry on the other end. I had to put my phone down and start laughing and go, I'm not the only one. But YouTube will now let you pay for their app, and then you can click your phone and keep listening. That sucks. Where are we? Oh, the fucking reporting, tit for tat on both sides. No reason for all this views. I'm over it. I honestly don't care. I really don't. If you report a video, it better be for a good goddamn reason, or you have no reason to report it. If in the back of your head you know you're just doing it for self-satisfaction or self-preservation, then why the fuck are you still on the internet? Change your name, get a voice changer, start another channel, do something different. Run, motherfucker, run. You screw up, just run. Know that now. I know that. I screw up, I'm done. I'm kind of an asshole though, so I'll screw up. Okay, I screwed up, fuck you. So I feel pitched, dude. Dude, my air fryer bell just dong. Ding. That hurt. TMW. Oh. You get impaled by the fence you were sitting on. Yes, Bubonic, sometimes you're a dick. It's okay, though. We love you for it. If that's the word we want to use. Matt isn't a dick. He's an arsehole. Pussy and arseholes get fucked by dicks. That's relatively true. Careful. Careful, that's an assumption. What a comeback for Medicare. I honestly, you'll have to forgive me, I didn't know Medicare was gone. I assume for some part of people, a lot have left or switched their streaming or video making schedule for jobs that make more money than YouTube. I've tried, it's not working for me. So as long as I have the time, I'm here. And at one point, I hit like spending a few hours on a job, and I said, okay, well, I'm also spending time on YouTube. How am I being productive? And I wasn't. So I'm going through my whole channel, looking at what and how I'm doing things, trying to add to my shows and look for ways to help. And I'm going to honestly take everything you guys give me, these polls and stuff, how these things go, I'm going to use them and move forward with them. But yeah, I didn't even realize he was gone. I thought maybe he was just working different hours and didn't have the time. That's what a lot of people are doing. He went all Roseanne and shit. Should have just owned up instead. Blamed vague shit. Honestly, alright, so I've had this conversation with a few other people. Let me first put forward my stance. I am a felon who has served time in state prison. And for doing drugs. I kind of mostly represented myself. I don't know why I had a public defender. They were stupider than me. And that's not I don't usually. They were probably smarter than me, but they're an idiot. That's fair enough to say. And I honestly walked right up to the judge and spoke with the judge and asked for the deal that, from what I had researched in the law library in the jail I was staying in, because I had a $500,000 bail for some reason, I learned quite a bit. And I spoke to the judge, walked right out, Your Honor, this is what happened. I understand this, and this. I'm willing to work with you and the DA today and make a plea of guilty in exchange for this sentence and this in return. And just owned right up to everything and just took the best bet I would have gotten. And that's all I could think to do in the situation I was in. So when I say you get caught in something, own up to it, deal with it, figure out how to move forward with it, and that's how you move forward. However, in saying that, it is not easy to do. It is actually probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. But I think from the reaction I get when I tell this to people, that this being a part of the person I am, okay, I did something wrong. There's no problem with owning up and dealing with it. It's how you deal with it from there on. That changes what the outcome of that situation is going to be for you and how you're going to move forward from it. It really does. I think I'm a much better person for what I've done. I could have done better. I could be a much better person. I never could have done the crime to start with. So there's always that. But at least I have a... What's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of it. I have something about me that, for better or worse, not necessarily 100% tell the truth, but I'm not going to be dishonest. There's no reason for it. What Matt are you looking at? I can't find him. Look up Mundane Matt. I really don't want to link his channel. He's got a little alien head. Little round blue alien head with black eyes. Respect for streamer intensifies. Well, I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. I've done shit wrong in my life. I have no problem. Hey, Dada, welcome to the chat. I have no problem with owning up to what I've done. I also don't show my face or say my name or be very, very specific about the areas in which I've done things or certain things that aren't regular that happened around the time, so that you can't find the county I was arrested in the state I was arrested in, or any of the other shit. And it would take you a long time to. So as long as I have that freedom to be anonymous on here, I'm good. And I fight for that. I try to stay out of the doxing deals for the most part, because I don't need to deal with it. If I did something to somebody, I have no problem with just being like, yeah, I did it. So what? We either going to talk about it or fuck off. And that's how I am. Let's either talk about something or fuck off. So, where are we? We're halfway through. Is there anything else I need to say about Matt, or have we kind of covered find the worms and you find numb? Denny, I'm assuming you've seen my latest weird video. It was awkward too, because how I found them and was paying attention was I went out for a cigarette and I dug the hole a couple days previous, and I was seeing how the water was coming up and it was settling, and then the light was just starting to come over the horizon and the trees, and I saw a glare hit the water and these little things start moving. So I looked closer and closer, and then I got my camera out and zoomed in a little, and I was like, what the hell is that? So I took one out of the water and put it on a tray, and it almost immediately stopped moving once it came out of the water, but it still had a droplet around it, so light movement, and then it dries out into like a powder. So that says nothing, except the best way to get rid of them would be to dry out my yard, which I can't do because there's a spring right there, which is probably why they're there. Numbskull smoking that crack. Not in a long last time, thank you. And only once with the crack. I went right for the good shit, and then I quit that. You represented yourself in court and didn't go terribly. That's impressive. Not only did it not go terribly, but I got my bail reduced drastically, and I got 3 weeks. What did I get? Yeah, I got 3 weeks between court and sentencing for me to go home because I had spent 5 weeks locked up away from my family. I had lost my job and everything else for something I had done months before. So I had gotten out of a way of life, tried to clean up. It caught up with me, and the best thing to do was just deal with it and move on. And that's pretty much what I have to say about it. If anybody ever cares about my story reference video number, whatever this is, and we'll move on from that. But Mundane Matt, that is the only way I see he could have gotten out of that situation, is to flat out stop being a bitch, own up to what you did, deal with it. Don't be a bitch about dealing with it. When you get off the stream, go cry the fuck to yourself if that's what you need to do. Because I will tell you, there were days that I spent locked up there. You know, you get taken away from your family, and I had a newborn kid that was only a couple months old. You lose it a little bit. And other people understand. Some people go through it. Yeah, there's the assholes that say they don't. Sure. Okay. Whatever. You get pulled from your kid unknowingly for not doing anything at the time. You get a little broken. Something happens inside. I need to move away from this. It's going to get depressing. I got done with the dark cog stream, and all of a sudden I'm getting dark. I don't need to be dark. Wait, maybe I do. I'm a numbskull. But let's get Matt off my screen, or at least minimize him really small. We'll make Matt tiny, because one day he will be tiny. And we'll leave him up in the corners. We'll do a bubonic thing. What the hell am I grabbing and moving now? I don't... Oh, that's my browser. I have a Oh, no, I'm not using that. Alright, so now I need to find this HuffPost video, which I'm not actually sure how to do that on my computer, to be honest. I have had so many comments on this HuffPost video. It came out a week ago. Hopefully this won't play the audio, and I disliked it, so I need to share it to myself and then send it to my computer. Awesome. I got people walking through the house. Meanwhile, what is everybody in here? Milk and cookies. Milk and cookies. Word. I'm trying to eat. So don't watch the worm or larva video right now. Recommended. Unless you're eating crickets or grasshoppers. Maybe you should watch it. I don't understand his reasoning. My reasoning? Your reasoning. Matt's reasoning. Cookies. Hard to imagine Matt being tiny. How tall is Matt? I don't think he's all that tall. I want to say he's like 5'10" or less, right? And to me, that's tiny. I got at least half a foot on him. I'm gonna look down on him, in which case he's tiny. I know I have tweeted myself before. I have to tweet myself again. There I am. Myself to myself. Well, I tweet myself and I talk to myself and all the people listening to myself. What movie is that? How high does shit pile? I don't know. Let's find out. I think it's this one. There we go. That big. Oh, we're talking about Matt still. Oh, never mind. Not as high as I can fly a day. Not as high as I can get in a day. Me neither. Wait, I'm lost. I gotcha. It's set. I just need to find Twitter. I lost it. What else am I missing? What is a mango worm? Mango worm? I was discussing horsehair worms. Load Twitter. Why are you being slow? Message from me. I don't have any windows that will compromise my information. Your information will not be compromised. Okay, I'm good then. What the hell is going on with you, Twitter? Smoke weed every day. Almost. Mostly. Yeah. I try. It's better for everybody if I do my best to try and have at least a little bit a day. Open link in new tab. Perfect. We'll get this. We'll get this rolling. Now I need
one of the things that's come up again and again.
I know you guys can hear what I do. I'm hoping maybe showing you this video will only give you like thinking points. I want you to not think about necessarily what is said, but the impact. How does what they're saying impact you? The movie is 8 minutes long. We're gonna have to kind of pick shots, if I can, out of it, and I don't like usually doing that. We need ourselves a display capture. I need to be smart about this. I need to be a smart producer. We need ourselves a display capture. Let's try that again. And it needs to be... Oh look, I have one set up. Does it work? Does it? I can't tell. That's not loading. Why is that not loading? Well, because that display capture is broken. We're gonna have to get rid of it. I don't know what happens with these. It's for some reason in OBS, and I think they need to fix this. For some of the windows and trying to do certain things, it'll be all set up. You'll have it prepped for the show, like I did today, and it's not gonna work. Damn. Alright, well, I will still I'll still do this. Yay. Did you like the channel called Sorrow TV? I honestly have that set aside on the list to watch tonight, because I was moving around doing a lot of stuff. I got extra people here today, so I am going to sit down and watch that, and then tomorrow morning crash coursing our topic, which I have not mentioned. It's Friday, right? Yeah, it's Friday, because I watched Ghost Poo. It must be Friday. Okay, so we'll give you a little of the audio.
And in the year since is that now people who have no association with Charlottesville think, oh, that's like the thing that happened in Charlottesville. Americans are generally not used to Nazis marching through the streets with swastikas. That doesn't seem any...
Okay, so why not? Why are we not used to watching people march through the streets with swastikas? Maybe this generation isn't used to seeing it, or people aren't used to seeing it because there's videos of it all over the internet and the news about people with swastikas. But it's been happening for years. You can march with whatever you want in America. You can follow whatever you want, so long as what you follow doesn't plan to or actively incite violence against somebody or something. That's all there is to it. You can follow whatever you want. This argument bothers the living hell out of me, because there's no reason, if I want to, not, but if I want to be a white supremacist, I'm free to. If I want to be a Catholic priest, I'm free to. If I want to be apparently a little 5-year-old girl somewhere, it's okay to. So, with all this freedom, what's wrong with seeing shit that's happening? They hold an opinion. They hold a view. If their opinion or their view becomes violent, if they start inciting people to cause violence on someone, then what they're doing is wrong. Until then, they've done nothing. And there's no problem with them protesting. Just like there's no problem with Black Lives Matter, or Antifa, or any other group that wants to protest. There's no problem with that. Do what you're supposed to. I knew as I was saying it, it was a bad idea. Thanks for confirming my suspicions. Scary picture data says narratives. That is why it's a bad thing these days. Alright, well, I attribute some of it to availability of information, obviously, because we get online, we see more, and we're exposed to more, and we make our perspective based on what we've seen. Now, instead of having what we learn and we taught in the world around us as we learn it growing up, we have the entire world streamed to us at a point where there is no way anyone can humanly consume the amount of information that is available. Ever. No way. Well, maybe a microchip. I'd be the first in line if it had like a 30 tera quad drive and I could just download the internet and go, it's time to go to work. But that's never going to happen. Not in my life. Let's see. Scary picture. Charlottesville shit. They all worried about tomorrow. It's people who have no lives, fleeting for lives of others, hitting keyboards and flood influential companies that force this down your throat. You could if you were in the Matrix. Maybe.
Any more normal to us here than it does to anybody anywhere else in this country.
I think white supremacists will always target Charlottesville because...
Alright, now, I don't mean to be mean, but from that voice, she sounded cute. And then I turned and looked at my screen on my original viewing of this video, and she's short. And does anybody remember what happened to the girl that kept eating everything in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? Didn't she turn into, like, she swelled up really fat and floated away? Am I wrong? Okay. A 17-year-old black girl plays that part. You have a picture of what happened.
Charlottesville let them target Charlottesville. The white supremacy is not coming from outside, right? It's right here.
1 year later, a reckoning in Charlottesville.
1 year since the Unite the Right rally left 1 dead and dozens injured.
Okay. They don't bring context to the 1 dead and dozens injured and what had actually happened. Hey, Jolly Roger, Bilgewater, how are we doing? And the accident and the forced accident, the guy being chased with a gun, the guy getting in his car and fleeing down the street in a crowd, and then everything else. We all know what happened, but they don't bring it up. They just say the incident where 1 died and 12 injured.
The city of Charlottesville, Virginia is still struggling with its own history of white supremacy. While messages of unity may have provided...
Alright, so there's a sign on the Robert E. Lee Memorial Park statue. It says, government personnel only, I think is what it just said. I just missed it. No more gone, but not forgotten, healthier. There's a sign outside with a whole bunch of words chalked into it.
Temporary relief from the racism and violence that took place on August 11th.
Hate is heavy, so let it go.
Activists argue that racism and violence were always a part of Charlottesville. In the fight against
slave
them,
auction block. On this site, slaves were bought and sold. Okay. I have a huge problem with this discussion, and the deeper I dig, the more I have a problem with it. I understand that is where slaves were bought and sold. 1680, I misquoted when I made the original remark I made on the HuffPost video. I quoted 1860. It was 1680, or thereabouts. I think it was 1678. Maybe? No. 1780? What the hell am I talking about? Okay, now I have to check back to look at the date again, because I know I misquoted it. At the point where slavery began, and I can't remember the name on the case either, I just remember certain details from the case that I feel were more important than the rest of it. So this is what started slavery. A black slave owner took the slave to court and filed a case against the indentured servitude. And data can maybe back me up a little here on what this was, the information, because I think we've talked about this a lot. And the case was brought from a black slave owner against the black slave to keep the black slave, or the black indentured servant, as a slave because the owner couldn't afford to provide the indentured servant with a gun, food, money, shelter, I think it was, and a few other things. Johnson, thank you. With that being said, the first legal precedent in Virginia, by the way, was set by a black slave owner. I have been pouring through statistics, and I have 2 huge blown-up maps from the 1860 census, which is a hand-drawn map with information about roughly 32 million people. But slave block, the slave block, the Robert Lee statue. These are important parts of history, at least to me. Things that are done wrong need to be remembered that they were done wrong. There are memorials around the world of things that were done wrong as well as things that were done right. Because in order to know what's right and what's wrong, you have to have references to be given. If everything is even keel and there's nothing horribly right or horribly wrong, then everything runs smoothly, and it's hard to tell. You don't know. You feel plain. It's not a good feeling. I've been on the kind of drugs that put you there. It's not good. If you don't experience the sadness and the happiness, or learn about the good and the bad, if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. Not because you're inclined to, but not knowing doesn't prevent you from. What am I missing? The intersection of traffic was stopped. A car was parked in the street and left. The gunpowder plot was done wrong and should not only be remembered but corrected. Most people only care about the positive. If you don't know history's bad things, you are bound to repeat it. See? He said it too. Sometimes doing the right thing isn't doing the right thing. That's always true. It all depends on your definition of the right thing. Now, I really want to get to my comments, because I think the comments that I made on this, and I'm sorry if I'm boring some of you guys, I really am. I see the numbers slowly dropping. Have a good night if you do have to happen to leave. I appreciate you stopping by, and if you want to hit the like or share button, that would be awesome, but I'll say it again later. Wow, it's amazing. I'm looking at this video. It has 1,360 views. It has 31 upvotes and 34 downvotes. I'm one of them.
So the alt-right mob, some 300 white supremacists, were carrying torches on the night of August the 11th, and they streamed down the steps of the rotunda here to the statue of Thomas Jefferson, where a group of my students and community members and other students had gathered.
Okay. Here's a weird question that comes to mind, and I don't really want to watch this video. It's 1 year later, Charlottesville reckons with white supremacy on the HuffPost reports. I'd rather tell you guys to the comments, because I want to get to the exciting part. This is boring me, and I don't want to do it if it's boring me. First, just because a whole bunch of happenly white people are all chanting a slogan like that doesn't necessarily mean they're white supremacists. It just means they agree with the white supremacist viewpoint. Which brings a question to my head, especially with a lot of recent videos and information I've been finding about numbers of slaves and owners in southern areas. And my next contextual lookup will be population increase by genealogy and area based on non-immigration numbers to see what the growth of the population I'm trying to determine the relative estimated growth of the population of those who would have been slaves in the 1860s and adjust the proportion to relate to those who would be offspring of slaves during today. I'm trying to provide a correlation in my mind for me to be able to connect the numbers. I want to get an idea. If you're trying to make the argument that white people are racist, provide proof. Show me numbers. How many people do you estimate are racist and why? Provide context for why you believe this many people are or are not racist. And I think I've made some really good arguments, which is why I think this is awesome. My comment is still on the top from 2 days ago. It says, Virginia, the state where slavery began. Interesting, it's whites blamed for every slave when it was a black who fought to keep a black indentured servant as a slave in Virginia. It was 1865? Question mark. Oh well, what do I know? Wait, why doesn't it say the rest of it? You all replies. Come on, show the rest of my message. What do I know, right? Oh, I guess that was all my message. All right, this gets confusing. I'll try and keep it somewhat in order. Revised by the academics. George Orwell. I know I've heard that name before commenting on other videos. It's probably been other HuffPost videos that I've watched. Numbed Skull. Exactly. Another good argument is that if blacks were never slaves, they would still be in Africa, according to the John F. Olson and Fogel and Engerman and other sources. Slaves weren't treated very badly as people think they were. Xavier Gomez, I offered him a chance on my show, which you'll see in a few minutes here as I get to the bottom. Numbskull, white people were the ones who owned the majority of slaves in this country and abused them. I'm going to go in the order they're in, even though it's not the order they were had. Numbskull, whites were the ones who put Jim Crow and segregation in place. And his response to George Orwell, and what's wrong with being in Africa? How is that a good argument? Okay, I want to get to my arguments. One, because I like my arguments. They're researched, they're thought out, then most of the words are spelled right. So to Xavier Gomez, before slavery there were indentured servants. Before slavery there was indentured servitude. Slavery began its legal growth because of the black indentured servant being legally considered a slave when it was a black owner said that it was too expensive to give them a gun, money, and other required items for the servant upon their freedom. While as the slave growth continued, white men were in office. Whites were not the only ones who owned slaves or went to court to keep their slaves. Also, keep this in mind. Not all white people owned slaves. It took white people who realized it was wrong to begin to change things. It is irrelevant whether you are black or white. There were black and white people on both sides of the argument and throughout history. The problem is to read more. To lump all people together as whites hating blacks is a very short-sighted view. That was my honest response. What did I say before? Okay, so these are really out of order. I think I need to read them half upside down. No, they're just completely out of order. How do I put them in order? The problem is they're like all on top of each other. One of my comments to him. Maybe I should read all his comments first because there's far more of them. One of his comments. Once again, false, well misinterpreted statement. Africans did not sell other Africans. Certain ethnic groups sold other ethnic groups, which was a common practice all over the world at the time. It wasn't racial, nor was it violent. The transatlantic slave trade, however, was both of those things. Fair. There was violence on the transatlantic slave trade route. Not saying there wasn't. I can't attest proof either way. Numbskull, once again, what does it matter? White people were the ones brutalizing black slaves on the plantations, and it's been whites who denied black equal rights for decades. Which is where I gave the argument. Oh, where did it go? I don't know where they are. I said slavery is bad. I think there was a point. I think the point was the contention that Africa sold slaves into slavery over tribal disputes. Would they have been sold as slaves in America if they were not sold as slaves by other Africans against the slave trade route? No, it wasn't all sold by fellow tribes in the area, but a great deal of the black slaves sold into the transatlantic slave trade were sold by other blacks. That's what opened up the market for it. I could be misspeaking on opened up the market, but I do know that as it picked up, it was a lot of fellow tribes, and then it was just, hey, we need more, you're all coming. Diluting it down to crap. But white people gave us mayonnaise. All is forgotten. Sure, I want horseradish sauce. Whites are still being enslaved, but nobody likes to talk about it. It's all political BS and people are separated. Honestly, Saki, I was talking about this outside with a buddy of mine earlier who was hanging out. It's not so much that we're politically enslaved. I want everybody to think about what your credit line is, who you owe money to, where your payments go to. You are a financial debt slave. Data, you convinced me. Everyone's a financial debt slave. I kind of learned it on my own, though it was nudged in my direction. I made another really long point. Oh, no, I read that one. Here's the one with the numbers, because they're close. They're not all accurate. We are all debit slave. I don't have a credit card. But you're worth something. I'm a free stock puppet. I'm just hanging in someone's closet as a numbskull. A cadaver was once me. Something. So, replying to Xavier again. You are correct. There were a total of almost 4 million total slaves in America at the end of 1860, compared to an approximate total population of just under 32 million. Most were owned or held by whites, almost mostly owned by less than 1/4 or 8.35 million of the country's population at the time. So, by the math of the numbers and locations where people live, 2/3 of Americans had nothing to do with slavery. Nothing to do with it. Not exactly 2/3, roughly 2/3. Based on 32 million people. If of 32 million people, 8.35 million owned slaves, and there was a total of 4 million slaves, that's 12.35 million. That's shy of, or no, that's over a third. So roughly 2/3 of the country had nothing to do with it. And I bet you even some people that had slaves, from the stories and the indications I've been reading from the past, apparently somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 slave owners were black slave owners. Now, inside those black slave owners, some of the slaves, once they were freed, would buy their family members and free them. So numbers don't account for current proceedings about being freed, depending on the area or the state they lived in and when. Other numbers don't necessarily portray accurately, and I'm still searching, whether or not the people listed on the 1860 census were black or white. Because indentured servitude caused slavery, and yes, the country leaned heavily on slavery becoming black based on bias of southern states. Slavery of white people, assumedly, was still happening. Not only that, but I'm not also going to say, even if there were that many slaves and that many white people, how were they all necessarily treated all that bad? There are numerous evidence stories from slaves who said, well, ones who were taught how to read and write by their owners, who have left journals saying that they were treated well by their master and that they were set free when their master died, and it was somebody in the government or following a law that was written. And I've been looking at these. They are atrociously written laws. If a woman has a baby with a man, at first they changed them all the time. There was, year after year, the law was changing. If a woman had a baby with a man and the offspring was mulatto, the offspring would be a slave. If the woman was a slave when she had the offspring, there was a provision, whether it came out white, it came out black, it came out mulatto. They added laws for every different altercation, and that's, if you want to talk about it, that's kind of inherently what destroyed it. The greediness of turning indentured servitude into slavery started with a black person and then went, oh, we can do that? Well, then we can do anything we want to them. And it just got worse from there. And yes, it was mostly white slave owners. So if you think out of, what did I say, 8.35 million slave owners, I want to say it was like 3,000 or 4,000. I could be misquoting the number, missing an extra digit, but that's a lot of people. Primarily white slave owners. But you're blaming white people for doing it. We didn't do it. We followed along and did it better. That's not, well, that's a horrible thing to say. Sorry. If you are black, I have nothing against you. But if you sit and contest that it's all white fault, no. No, if you want to blame white people, take some of the blame yourself. Take some of the blame for what happened yourself. Acknowledge that blacks have made stupid mistakes that put them in the positions they were in. You acknowledge the fact that white people didn't necessarily start all of this. We just carried on with it once you guys got tired of doing it to yourself. And that's, wow, this is going to come off really negative. Stream buffering for anyone else. Green, green. I am green on everything. So far. I can get rid of a few things if I have to. I just caught that. I'm not a slave, I'm a free. I read that. Cash is debit. Shooting crap. I love shooting crap. Welcome back, Nike. Cool dog. How you doing? Because whites in America invented slavery. No, they didn't. Whites started with indentured servitude of Irish and other nations that were taking over. Apparently, there was a pretty large Arab slave trade, but I haven't found anywhere where that necessarily affected our country largely, but I'm still digging. We'll see if it comes in. If you want to insinuate that whites started it, I'm going to go back to the first legal precedent in Virginia. No, I can't remember the name or the year necessarily. I'm going to go to the precedent where a black person started it. How is it a white person's fault for making it legal? Well, white people were in the government. Okay, so if we're going to go with the knowledge that white people were in the government and that black people had no way to fight for their freedom, what the fuck was the Civil War over? Who started the Civil War? Who fought in the Civil War? And if the Civil War was necessarily just about blacks versus whites in slavery, the Civil War would have been blacks versus whites, not the North versus the South. Alright, so understandably, we all know how the system works. You could have the majority vote, but still lose the vote. You could have the smaller vote and still win. Okay, so keep this in mind. And when you think back to having fewer states and fewer municipalities, fewer delegates in office voting for certain things that happened, there were more states in the South, but fewer people in the South. So the South had a bit more power in the government than the North to be able to control laws for longer periods. Finally, they pushed it through 1865 and undid slavery, which caused the Civil War because the slave owners revolted. So let's take this. You have in the South, in slave states, for the numbers, 8.35 million owners. With, what was the number? 4 million? No. Where? Why me? It's up here somewhere. 4 million slaves in America at the end of the 1860. And 8.35 million people. Why do I think I'm getting those numbers backwards? Something tells me I'm a numbskull. Did I quote the wrong numbers? I thought I quoted them right from the report I was reading, but I could have quoted the wrong numbers. Slavery is part of African tribal culture. It's been a part of many cultures, truth be told, still is part of some cultures of the world. Didn't Lincoln want to send them back to Africa? We don't want to go home. Some of these people treat us nice, and they brought us here. And Numbskull, the funny thing is, in a timey-wimey way, the blacks today bitching about slavery would not even exist if their forefathers were not brought to this country long ago. That is the... Alright, as jumbled as the replies in the HuffPost are, the basic conversation went... You're blaming all white. Some of your comments insinuate that all whites are responsible for what happened. And that's not even close to the truth. It can't even be close to the truth. It's not even half. Alright? And I'm looking for and at the numbers to determine how much of above or below half. Where is this folder? It's up there. We click on August because it's August. And that's where I'm saving everything today. Put it where I can actually see it. Interesting things. Oh, I'm gonna regret this. I bet you I'm gonna regret this. What am I doing? I need to load it in here for you guys. No, that's too big. You guys won't be able to see it. I won't be able to move it around. It's way too large. What I did was I downloaded the map and I stretched it out as far as I could visually before the numbers were too illegible. So I stretched it out to like 9,000 by 9,000 pixels, which is a little bigger than it originally was, so that I could zoom into different sections and get the numbers. Now I don't know if in the viewer I'm going to see any of that. Also, I can't see my chat. Alright, let me get to these numbers. There are two... Oh, it's not, is it? Oh, it's not. Oh, you fucktard computer. Close. Alright, fuck that. We'll go back and talk to the chat then. Alright, so there's two numbers in there. Basically, the 1960 full census of the United States. One of the maps I'm looking at gives me a complete census of the United States. I'm going through and I found a few differing numbers between this census and the other one that I have found. Both of them linked. I will link if I do a video or bring them up. The other one is a 1960 U.S. military census to judge the slave states for the content population of slaves. Because the goal was not to go after the slaves, but to free them and use them to help free everybody else. So, don't take down Robert Lee. That's the point, somewhere in there. I forgot why. But, I gotta stop saying apparently. That's a bad thing to do online. I'll stop saying some more ums. Basically, I want to get the context. Now, I believe there's racism. Is it okay to be racist? Kind of. As long as you don't do it to somebody. You can sit at home and scream all you want. You can broadcast that you don't like black people. But as soon as you do something negative against black people or white people or any people that's not your people because of their people. If you do something against a white person and you're a white person and you did it because the other person is white, you're a racist. Same thing. It really doesn't matter what color you are or what color you're going against. Racism is an inherent dislike of somebody because of their color. Ooh. Where did I miss? You know how the football players were kneeling in the game during the national anthem and the protest the officers were doing to people. The one player said it was being systematically oppressed. Okay. How? First of all, that player who was representing systematic oppression. Cops make mistakes. Sometimes they get away with it. And if you watch content from people that have been or were cops, you get the real impression. And when you see these cops dying and start seeing the body cam as it gets released and start seeing what happens, some of the cops just didn't have enough training or enough experience and were in a situation that they were ill prepared for individually. Other cops, short fuses. Most cops do shit right. And there's no reason to... Alright, my thought process. I got a bag of weed in the car when the cop drives up. I'm scared. Don't say anything I'm not supposed to. The cop figures out I got it. Damn, I'm caught. Good job, officer. In fact, when that did happen years and years ago, and they sat me down at the station, my question was, well, since you already got 5 tickets on me and all the other, can I just finish what was in the bowl? No, you can't. All right, and how about a drink of water? So, that's how my first arrest went. Numbskull, play this. I don't wanna. How does a millionaire kneeling for an anthem do anything to help police brutality? Here's a question. If you inherently think the police, and this is an argument I hear, and I think it's a valid argument, so I'm going to repeat it in my words, supposedly. If you think police officers are going to do you harm inherently just because of your interaction with them, then you're going to fear them. To instill a fear in somebody. Let's say you're a kid. Hey, Johnny, don't go near clowns. Clowns will bite off your nose. Johnny, don't go near clowns. Clowns will bite off your nose. You drop him off at a birthday party one day, 12, 13 years old. Kid seems okay, let him go. Oh no, there's a clown at the party. 20 minutes later, you get a phone call. Johnny flipped out and tried to kill the clown because he thought they were bad. Teach a kid. Cops are bad. That they're bad people. They're going to do bad things. Oh, what's Johnny going to do? There's a cop. I'm going to pull my gun and shoot at him because he's a bad guy. And that's the simplest, dumbest logic I can think of. And it kind of matches almost every shooting video I've seen, black or white. Numbskull, no one of those players protested in the off-season or did anything to help the situation. I believe one of them had somebody draw up funding plans for a school in a low area, and it's just getting finished and opening. It's funny how long buildings take from beginning to end. It's not like you can just go, hey, I'm going to build a school here for kids and it'll be here in a month. No, 3 years later you might have that building if you're lucky. It's difficult to explain how some of that works because it does change by area. But buildings, well, they can go up pretty quick, can't go up until you've done a lot of stuff beforehand, including surveying and ground testing and prefabs and designs, and everything have to be made according to the layout, has to be added to the plan, surveyed, checked over by usually like a town planner or something that justifies that the building's not going to be too large or small or unneeded for the area, that it's not going to be unsightly or bother with any plans that they have for the future, things like that. To quote Ice Cube, I was born guilty. Probably were. Probably born, your dad handed you a gun, you looked at him, smiled, and go, thank Dad, I'll shoot the first cop I see. That's, yeah, born guilty. I have no problem admitting I'm guilty, so doesn't that give me free reign to yell at other criminals being a criminal? I can speak as a criminal. Don't be a dumb criminal. Doesn't that give me a little bit of right there? Are you giving me it again? Data. You know it's already over an hour and you're sending me more. I've got to get going. I don't like running for too long. I don't watch all of 2 and 3 hour replay streams. Hey, I'm English. I'm guilty regardless of whatever I do. Yeah, because you got a pocket watch and that can be taken off and you can strangle somebody with it. You have a weapon. Damn it. Okay. The chat that works better for me, it also shows the link as a clickable link, but it won't let me click the link the way I want to do it. Now, where did that window go? Oh, I'm going to regret this.
But what about the civil rights? I mean, it's necessary.
What about the civil rights?
Well, we have 20 million blacks on this continent.
Right.
It was necessary to extend rights to them that perhaps for the first 199 years were denied them in this free America.
I guess that they've had a pretty tough break, but not quite as bad as you and your do-gooder friend.
Uh-oh. This is John Wayne's message to Black Lives Matter. When was this recorded? August 12th, 2016. So obviously it's old. 33 comments, 17,000 views.
Haven't believed they live as well here as they live in any other country over that 199 years. True, I think they do have a right to more rights, but it isn't a thing where the rest of the country should feel terribly guilty about anything because they have had a better life here and their fathers and mothers than they would have had any place else.
And that brings an interesting point to the question. Why did I just lose it as I went to say it? If you look at the way some of them lived, and you look at the numbers as they progressed from 1850 to 1860, you see that the threshold for the growth of slaves at some point seemed to have slowed down to where it was probably not so much an intake of, but the growth of the population increase that the slaves would have had. At the same time, you see a regular population increase happen at a faster rate among the slave owners. So with that inferred, you can assume that some of those slaves that were slaves in 1850 were no longer slaves by 1860, whether it by railroad slave routes or whatever method, legal or illegal at the time. There were more free people and the slaves weren't growing as fast, the number of them. So we weren't intaking them, or it was population growth. And that's kind of what I wanted to look at is, in some aspects, population growth. Because there were, and I can only assume that every situation I think of in a population of millions of people, there's inherently at least a few aspects of any situation you can think of throughout that population. So there was bound to be slave owners that just legally did everything and hid their slaves at home and never told anybody when they had kids or anything else, because it would be a criminal offense against them as well as their kids and the slaves, or they'd have to pay fines. So I'm sure there were happy families of people who were maybe legally listed as slaves. Also, according to the records, some people who had already earned their freeship from slavery were still in the record as slaves in 1860. I'm not sure how many of that number, but I will cast that possibility aside as a low attribution just to offer credit to the argument. Oh, there's still some seconds on here.
And I want to see them have everything. I don't squawk and cry baby and say, geez, I had to go without meals when I was 16 and 17 years old. It's a terrible thing. I don't think that you should look back and whine and bellyache or try to hold somebody else guilty for everything you did.
And apparently that is the end, and it moves to something else. So it was a British interview on his converted Navy boat to a pleasure yacht. Okay, here's a question, and this is an argument I really hate. I don't see that I've necessarily received any privilege for being white. I've lived in a mostly white area that has always had black students and other black people that I've associated with. I've had neighbors, I've had friends. It's never been not in my life, nor has it been a large part of my life. At no time did they ever make me, nor did I ever make them feel like they didn't belong because of the color of their skin. In fact, the kid was one of the few that was as tall as I was at the ages I was that height. So they were usually ideal to play basketball or other sports with. It's funny how some people would automatically assume living in an all-black area that white people must automatically hate them. Well, living in a majority white area, having been punched in the face by a black shoplifter and his black friend, well, I kind of have a negative view on black people. I think they've done more harm to me than most whites. So why am I not racist? Well, he's a bad apple, and they happen among every group, and I have to acknowledge the fact that he doesn't represent all of his group. So acknowledge the fact, at some point, if there's 100, 200 people marching through South Carolina or anywhere else, whether it be for Black Lives Matter, Black Lights, why do I keep saying lights? Black Lives Matter, or whether it be for Black Lives Matter, the KKK, Nazis, white supremacists, it really doesn't matter so long as they're not trying to incite violence or causing violence. Let them have their opinion. Let them go freely. You start the violence, that causes the problem. If you cause violence against them because of what they hold, you're going to basically draw people to what they hold, saying that they need defense. You're causing harm against them, regardless of the narrative you're trying to portray. Poppy had its 1 minute. We did that. Call him Boris. 1971. What part was in 1970? Oh, the interview. John Wayne was still alive in 2016. ? No, he died decades ago. That's what I thought. British interview. Yes, read that. Back in the 90s, racism was very much dead, on its way to it. Maybe the issue should be why it suddenly returned. I think what happened, this is my only thought process on this, because I kind of grew up, born in the 80s, lived in the 90s, adulthood in the millennium. I grew up with, there's nothing wrong with them. I don't have a problem with them. I'm not going to differentiate black people from white people unless I'm trying to describe them for a situation. Do you know Joe? No. The guy that lives on the corner? No. The black guy. Yeah, I know him. Oh, that helped. And that's what it's for. But other than that, it really has no aspect in my life. I have opinions on how I see certain groups of people acting, but it's funny how most of the groups of black people I see acting that way are also littered with white people acting the same damn way. So I can't necessarily attribute it as a black thing if white people also do it. That is me not being racist. There's no reason to assume that because this black person does it, they all do it, and I don't like them all for what this one did. And there's no reason for me to assume that there's not people of both races that feel all directions of this situation. So how am I supposed to believe when a narrative comes out that says white people need to stand up or they're part of the problem? No. No. The problem is the violence between them. What happened? What caused the violence? If the protesters want to get up in people's face and push and shove, then that's now violence and needs to be taken with action. And this whole, from the 90s on, I just tangented out there for a minute, guys. I'm sorry. From the 90s on, what kind of happened was we got to a point where we weren't necessarily looking them primarily as different, but they started seeing us as different for trying to treat them the same. And to us, treating them the same is we treat you like everybody else we interact with. We treat you no different. But now it came to a point where when they realized they weren't being treated different, it's like we're not earning any more respect. We still want to earn more respect. Well, we're giving you the same respect we give everybody else. Well, that's not enough. You need to make up for what you did. We don't feel good enough about ourselves for you groveling at our feet because our great-grandparents and whatnot were slaves and had to deal with this. We think we have reparation because people have built up animosity against us. You want us to do what for you now and we can't have animosity? Okay. We'll discuss that at another time, obviously, because we're going to have animosity towards us if you expect us to do something. What am I getting here? When it was in school, I was picked on by all whites except for one black guy. He was an asshole. I had a close black friend that I called Moosh. He would get picked on by the same black guy. Yeah, it didn't matter. Honestly, bullying as a kid, and this is another thing. As a kid, kids are going to bully kids. It's a matter of, what's the word? In any social dynamic, you're going to create groups, whether it be some sort of, if it's a work dynamic, you're creating groups that are basically tasked or have abilities in the same field. If you're friends, you're looking for people to be friends who have the same common characteristics. That may or may not necessarily include people of the same or other colors. However, you look for attributes about people that you can get along with and deal with because you're looking to get along and deal with someone. That's what that is. It doesn't matter color. Attributes of somebody's personality aren't necessarily affected by their skin color unless they think white people are bad because white people are racist and owned all the slaves. But they didn't. But they owned most of them. Yeah, they did. And white people made the laws. You're right. And then, now that we're free, you have animosity. Who freed you? Who freed you? Well, we did. We fought for it. Really? Who wrote the laws that caused the Civil War? Who went fighting for freedom in the Civil War? How did this all work? Did you read and understand history? Yes, black people fought in the war. Oftentimes, they would be forced to fight for the South, and on the battlefield, they would give up, run around, and fight for the North. Or they would, what's it called when they turn? You would get some slaves that were legitimately fighting for or with their masters because they believed they were in the better of the lives, that their freedom would have been worse off than their having been a slave. And I understand that kind of brainwashing and whatnot, or that person being so well taken care of, maybe seeing other people who were freed not be taken care of, they didn't want it. I don't know. The situation back then is very different. People weren't exposed to as many situations, personalities, ideas, perspectives, diversity as we are today. They didn't see things how we see things. You can't portray people now, having learned and been through all of that, maybe read through a couple history books or fawned over a census map for a while, to learn a little information to actually discuss. Why did we do it this way? Was it predominant? Well, yeah, there was a lot of it, but what would predominant be? Would it be most? If you're asking if most people, then no. You actually need to take this down to a much smaller group. And it just doesn't play through the same way when you start looking at the numbers and taking their arguments and then throwing numbers at it. It's like, but it still happened. Agreed. Not saying it didn't. But it was bad. Not saying it wasn't. But it was most whites. All whites are racist because whites were racist back then and whites owned most of the slaves. No. Where? Why? No. Most of America. Most population-wise. Like if you want to do the Hillary Clinton argument, most people voted for Hillary. She didn't win. Well, most of the population was in the North. And they didn't win. For years, the South was writing laws and pushing laws. Yeah, at points the North was in agreement. I understand that. People were in office. This is the way you got into office in different areas. I understand that. I'm still looking into it to understand more of it. But this is what happened. The best way for me to try and make a decision on how I feel, and not necessarily how I feel about racism, but how I feel about why racism is the way it is to continue to research what happened and know the entire argument, how and why slavery became, where it's headed, where it's been, all of this information, and offer it forward, get it all out, maybe mix it up a few times, and hey, look, I'm starting to understand what happened, you know, this court case and that court case and this legislation and then this slave owner and this ship came across. I'm not going to go through every individual person. I'm trying to get a broad category idea of what happened. But it's what happened. With that, I talked way too long about that. Is there anything else we need to do? Racism is a modern concept. Yeah. Race is just a way to describe somebody, to be perfectly honest. And it's a fair way to describe somebody. I can't say I haven't used it to describe shoplifters and people that have stolen from me and committed crimes, shot, whatever. See you later, TA. Thanks for joining me. I didn't see you right away. Saki, if I didn't say hello, welcome. To everybody else, we are coming closer to the end. Is there anything else I'm forgetting or I need to look at or discuss at the end of this here argument? And I will look and see if I missed anything in here. Somebody told him if he was Mexican and needed to go home or something. I didn't entirely catch that part of the conversation. Numbskull, good thing I never said that all. I said that white supremacy is an issue in this country and racists like the ones in the video shouldn't be enabled. The people enabling those who you believe to be racist are those committing acts of violence against those you believe to be racist. Whether or not they are racist is nothing in America. You can be whatever you want. When you incite or cause violence, you are then racist. No. Well, hold on. Let me reword that. When you incite or cause violence to a race or a person because of their race, that's racist. And that's as simple as you can get. I can be a white supremacist. If I were a white supremacist and I were marching, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as I don't call for any harm to happen or cause any harm to happen to people of an alternate race to cause mine to be supreme. I don't care if we are. Although it would be kind of nice if we didn't get blended out of existence, which is probably going to happen in the next couple thousand years or less. The only race I loathe is the human one. That's probably true. Numbskull, are all F1 drivers racist? Why? Because they drive on blacktop? I didn't open my board for tonight. Oh, no, I didn't open my second board. I got one board open. It's like, oh, but it doesn't have that one. All right, folks. And now we are going to move smoothly into this flashy outro that... Oh, crap. Let me click everything. And as I'm clicking it, please make sure you have clicked it. Oh, not that one. Don't click that one. Please make sure you've clicked all of these fun buttons, and that'll make sure I see you next time. Bye. As soon as I'm done clicking.